All right, so as I was saying in the last video, we got to the gig. We set up. Finally, when Amanda got there, we got the power. So we found a power source, and it was about 150 feet away from where we were set up at the other side of the parking lot. So thank God Brian had a lot of extension cords and stuff like that, but we even had to borrow one from Amanda as well. So anyway, I plug in my Hot Rod Deluxe. I put the Hot Rod Deluxe in the car the night before, packed most of the stuff up the night before, which was a smart move, so that, because it was a daytime gig. It wasn't an evening gig, right? So I didn't have all the time in the world to pack up and all that. So I did everything the night before. So that was good. And then in the morning, I brought my guitars out and whatever. But when I got to the shop and we got hooked up with the power finally, I turn on my Fender Hot Rod Deluxe, and there's like no sound coming out. I'm like, what's going on? And a lot of times when you panic over, like, what happens is it's usually something really simple, and you usually kind of panic over things not working. And what do I do? Oh, it's a tragedy, whatever. So I tried a few things. I don't panic because I've been through that first few gigs. I've done hundreds of gigs over my lifetime, right? So it's like, I don't panic. I'm like, okay, the amp's not working. Why is it not working? Quick preliminaries. Checked all the volumes. Okay, checked my two input jacks. Okay, it wasn't that. Okay, checked my cable. Wasn't that. Amanda just happened to have a backup amp. It was another Fender. It was a little tiny 15-watt backup amp, similar to my little crate there. I forget what they call it, the front end or whatever series you want. And I just went to that. I said, okay, I'll mess with my tube amp at home. But my very first showing of this tube amp live, and it failed me. Basically, like I was telling Brian, I said, like, this thing, like, you could hear a bit of sound coming out of it. And I said, no. I said, they should be on two. They should be able to hear me at the other end of the town. It's a Hot Rod Deluxe. These things are extremely loud for a 40-watt amp. They're 180 watts in and a full 40 out. And if you know, you know what these amps are like. They keep up with your most obnoxious, loudest drummer on the planet. Get a Hot Rod Deluxe. You can keep up with them, no problem. There's no drummer louder than that amp. Full stop. There's no drummer louder than that amp. On 3. Like, that's how loud it is, right? But, I won't get too much into the circuitry of the Hot Rod Deluxe, but I will just tell you, when I turned it on, didn't matter if it was channel A, channel B, I wasn't getting any volume. With the volume cranked to 12. These amps don't go to 11. They go to 12. Like, even Spinal Tap can't handle one of these things. True story. But anyway, so I'm like, okay, I got another issue. Now, because we didn't have time, I was like, well, I'll just go grab that little amp. And man was like, yeah, go take it out of the shop, like whatever. So hopefully no one was planning on buying it that day. But so I got it. I hooked it up, a little transistor amp. The sound I got out of it was the sound I got out of it. It didn't sound that horrible, but it definitely wasn't going to be as glorious as that. So I didn't mess with the amp. We had enough things to take care of. I had all my guitars tuned to 440. With my tuner. I've had that same tuner since 1995 or 94 or whatever, back when I used to gig. And it was all set and everything like that. The guitars were all set. So if I had to play with backing tracks, I would have been able to do it. So we get there. First thing that we noticed was first was my amp didn't work, right? So we solved that issue by Amanda saving the day and thanks to her for doing that, lending me her other little amp out of the shop and whatever. So the next thing that went wrong was Brian's, one of his speaker cables, which has it's not a phantom power, it's something else, type of cable to plug into the PA. So it's not a regular phantom power. I thought it would be, but it goes from phantom power to 1/4 inch, right? Which I had the 1/4 inch, no problem. But and Amanda ordered him up a cable, but it was only like 5 feet, and he needed like 25 feet, right? So 20 to 25 feet. But I had a 15-footer for my speaker. They're behind me somewhere anyway. Somewhere in this room, there's other speakers. And what happened with that was the cable needed to be spliced, and we just got lucky. And Brian he had it in a package, a 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch splice. So we solved that problem. Another gremlin solved. Then it was just a matter of getting everything set up and all that, and everything was okay. But then when I hooked up my mic cable, the thing I realized from the power source of where the trailer was and where the PA is, I wasn't going to be able to play up on the stage on the back of the truck. It's I don't think there would have been enough room for two guys, and definitely not two guys in a bass or two guys in a 7-string guitar. Even if I was playing to the left of them, I'd probably still be bashing them in the ribs with the one end of the guitar or the other. So I just opted to play on the ground and whatever. But my cables weren't long enough. And I was like, oh, geez, I thought I had, because I had like 20 or 25 feet of XLR cable. And it wasn't long enough. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird, So the cables is something it just slips in my, I got cables, no problem, whatever. So I brought a bag full of cables, and I'm just like, years ago when I was younger, I used to always buy 25 and 50-foot cables and crazy, because, delusions of grandeur. I'm going to be playing on this stage. I'm going to need a 50-foot cable. Yeah, very few people will ever need a 50-foot cable. So I started buying like 10, 12 feet cables, right? 12 feet seems to be the magic spot for most of the playing stages. I'm not, eventually I want to go wireless. I think if I would have been wireless yesterday, it would have been a lot of fun. But it would have saved a lot of problems too. But anyway, everything was getting set up. So we got the speaker problems solved, all that. We got the amp problem solved, and I'll get to what it is on the amp. I actually figured it out. So, and I thought about it after when I was coming on. So I bet you it's probably this. And then I'll explain it all near the end. But so cables, we didn't have, we should have taken note of the cables we need, where the power source was, making sure, all the equipment worked. Now, mind you, when I left the house, that amp was working just fine, right? You know what I mean? Now, mind you, it's a 19-year-old amp, so I thought, well, maybe just, it got bounced the wrong way coming down the driveway or whatever, and maybe that, fragile tube amp or whatever, but it wasn't that, and I think I know exactly what it is. So anyway, played the show, started playing, okay, the mic was fine. Looking back at the footage, there was like a chorus or whatever on the PA, and I knew the reverb was too much right away. I said, yeah, take as much reverb away as possible because we're outside and it's going to reverb a bit naturally anyway, bouncing off the buildings and stuff like that. But there was also this chorus, which I didn't like because it sounded good in some spots, but if you sang too fast, it gave this kind of almost robotic auto-tune kind of sound a bit. It sounded like there was a girl singing in background to me, it sounded like a harmony, which was cool, but it wasn't, I prefer to be a little bit more dry on the vocals. So it had its vines and vices, but overall it worked out and it sounded good. But it was somebody else's system too. But the thing is that the next time we play, I want to know that PA system a lot better. It's just a little Behringer system, but I want to know exactly how to set it so that I set it for me. That type of thing. So we'll go to part 3 now.